Hello, everyone. Welcome back to lesson number 3 here of this concept, the concept of the mechanisms of evolution. In lesson 3, we're going to be going over mechanism 3, which is gene flow. We've already hit natural selection and sexual selection, in which we tended to see trends, right? We tend to see certain things being selected for, whether they're just by the environment and your fitness to the environment, or through reproduction and mating. Right? And we also tend to see things being selected against. So there were definitely trends in the first two mechanisms. As we move into mechanism 3 here, as we move into gene flow, not so much, right? We start to become a little more random in how we see the gene pool change over time. So what is gene flow? Right? It's a pretty cool name. Well, what does that mean here? So we're looking at genes, right? We're still in this idea of the gene pool, and we're gonna flow. Almost literally, right? I think it actually helps to really embrace the metaphor of a gene pool, like actually thinking of it like an in-ground pool, right? Like a pool or like a lake or like a pond, right? This pool of genes. And we're going to start flowing between two pools, right? We have two pools next to each other. Some alleles, some genes are going to jump out of one and into the other and out of, vice versa. They're flowing. We have a flow of genes and alleles back and forth between gene pools, right? So actually embracing this water, body of water metaphor really helps to, I think, visualize what gene flow is. We kind of talk about it a little differently based on the direction, right? The direction of the flow does matter here. We actually have different words for which direction you're flowing in. So if you're flowing into a gene pool, right? So say we're in this pool and we have a new member entering our gene pool, making themselves available to reproduce, bringing their genes, bringing their alleles into our pool we're already in. We call that immigration, right? Immigration, you immigrate into a country, right? Like the same word. We're talking about gene pools. So if you're immigrating, that is moving into a population. You're moving into that population, into that gene pool, right? You're moving in. You're making yourself eligible to reproduce. You're bringing more genes in. You're bringing more alleles in. So in this case, your gene pool, your population is becoming more diverse, right? This is usually a good thing, right? We usually want immigration to happen in terms of gene pools. It means more diversity, which means as a species, you're probably going to be more able to survive long term, right? In a changing environment, you'll have better odds there. But we could also have the opposite occurring, right? We could very easily just go in the opposite direction. We could have individuals, and therefore their genes, their alleles, leaving our population. They could be exiting our gene pool, never to return, right? They're going to go flow into some other pool somewhere. We don't know where. It really doesn't matter to us, right? They're going to go leave. So that direction, when you flow out of a gene pool, we call that emigration. And this is moving out. Movement of individuals out of a population or out of a gene pool. Same thing when you're talking about countries, right? If you're an emigrant, when you emigrate, right? I'm really emphasizing, right? It's kind of hard to hear it. It's a lot easier when you can see it, right? The I-M versus the E. Like emigrate, like E for exit, right? Imi, like coming into, and emigrate for exit. E for exit, maybe that helps. So emigration, we're going to be moving out. So in this case, your gene pools, right, you're losing genes, you're losing alleles. So in this case, you're becoming less diverse, right? You start to have a diversity problem here. If you keep just losing genes and alleles and not getting any flow back in. So usually, between populations of the same species, there tends to be flow, right? We can have both happening between populations, but we do have different words for the direction, right? There tends to be maybe not always a perfectly balanced equilibrium, but there's definitely immigration and emigration happening all the time. Just to step that direction here. So let's look at a practice problem that you would see at a test. Looking at a good example here, let's just start with the question. Right, we got Hamadryas baboons. So these baboons, you've probably seen these guys. They're pretty big monkeys. Walk around on all fours out in the African savannas. They kind of have snouts, kind of pinkish faces, kind of pinkish rear ends. They got the long tails. The males kind of have like a mane, right? Females are usually a little bit smaller. Feel free to give these guys a Google if you want to see who we're talking about. But, very social monkeys, these Hamadryas baboons. And we call their groups troops. Right? We just call them Hamadryas baboon troops. Very social, right? Very, very social. With self-contained within a single troop. And we tend to see, like, troop warfare sometimes even, right? When two troops collide over the same territory. It can be very dramatic, actually. Very violent, very dramatic. But if you're a juvenile male, right? Juvenile male, it's very common for them to leave the troop. So that would be emigration, right? They are flowing out of their gene pool. But it's not like they're just going out into nowhere, right? They're not going to, like, no baboons land. They're probably going to immigrate into another gene pool, right? Another population, another troop of baboons. Why? Most of the time it's because they think they might have a better shot at becoming the dominant male in another troop, right? They can just kind of go in and fight and win the alphahood and get the right to mating with the female baboons in that troop. A little bit of sexual selection here as well, right? But for the most part, we're focusing on this gene flow. Some baboons emigrating, they're leaving, they're flowing out of the gene pool, and then immigrating or flowing into another different troop gene pool somewhere else. So then the question is, right, what's the actual question we're answering? How does this example of gene flow, right, we see this gene flow happening in these baboon troops. What is this going to do to the baboon evolution big picture, right, as a whole? So let's start looking at the answer options. Actually, before we get to the answer options, what do we expect? Right, so we're expecting, okay, if the troops just keep losing juvenile males, they're going to get smaller and less diverse, right? But if you're a gene pool that keeps receiving immigration, right? You keep getting flow into your gene pool, you're going to become more diverse, right? That's usually a good thing, right? We do want to see that long term. It's good for survival. So let's start looking at these answer options, right? So we want to see something like the troop losing baboons will become less diverse, and the troop gaining baboons will become more diverse. So let's see what's here. It's kind of a gray claim. I don't know if you can claim it's as much or more than gene flow versus sexual selection. Let's see if there's other options here. So B, troops experiencing immigration will have more diverse gene pools. B looks pretty good. Let's keep going, though. Before we commit, let's keep going. C, troops experiencing immigration will have less diverse gene pools. No, that's not true. We know that not to be true. Let's just check D. Troops experiencing emigration, so the troops experiencing baboons leaving, will have more diverse gene pools. Nope, that's not true either. So it looks like B is our best option here, right? Those in that direction of gene flow, and the into, right? Receiving more genes into their gene pool, become more diverse. That's good. So not totally random, right? We're starting to see a little bit more of a random flow, but next lesson when we get to mechanism number 4, genetic drift, that by definition is random change. We have a couple ways of categorizing it though. We'll look at that next time.